Hey there, hope you're doing well. Let's talk about meetings. Given that a lot of us are working remotely, I've been working remotely for over a decade now, maybe even more, even longer. But I know more and more people, folks who who had been going to work, or prefer to go to work rather than work remotely. Even those people are now working remotely, right? Given the situation we find ourselves in. So remote work means you're connecting with your team members in a variety of ways. Zoom being, as it looks like, the most popular way to doing it. But what you use to connect with your team members or do screen sharing is not so relevant. How you go about doing it is important, right? So let's talk about a few ways to making that process more efficient than it might already be for you. For starters, meetings. I know people may have differing opinions of them. If I'm given a choice, if I have a choice, like when we build our own products, we keep our meetings to a necessary minimum, and that's like a really small number. Like if we spend more than, yeah, sure, we are a smaller team, but regardless, if we find ourselves spending more than like 15-20 minutes in a meeting for the entire day, right? And like any given day, if we spend more than 15-20 minutes in a meeting, we feel like, I personally feel like there's something lacking, and I try to find ways to make that better, because a lot of it can be done remotely. And by remotely, I just don't mean physically remotely, but offline, right? Or not even offline, I don't know what the right word is, but by not getting into these live meetings. So because the minute you get into a meeting, let's say you're in a meeting with 4 other people, so there's 5 of you on a call, and let's say you spent even a half hour discussing whatever it is that you're going to discuss, then the collective human hours spent in that meeting would be like 2.5 hours, right? And let's say, just take a round number, let's say 5 of us got on a call and we spent 1 hour discussing whatever it is that we want to discuss at that point of time. So it's 5 human hours spent in meetings cumulatively, right? So if the 5 of us worked in that team, we had 40 hours to accomplish something in that given day. If we spent 1 hour on this, so it's 5 hours gone, right? Sure, it's important that you meet, connect with people, so you can get things done. But sometimes, and I've seen this more often than not, a lot of these meetings have too many people, and not a whole lot of stuff actually gets accomplished during the course of that call. And I think I read somewhere that this may or may not be true, but I think in Amazon, for instance, I believe they don't. I read this a while ago actually. That they make sure that the meeting, the number of people who show up in a meeting, can be fed by like 2 large pizzas or something like that. Except that our large pizzas are pretty large. They're much larger than they are in other parts of the world. Like if you go to Europe, the pizzas are much smaller. But even large pizzas, as we know of them, if you order 2 of them, and if you cannot have any more people, I think that's a great number, especially for a company that's a behemoth like Amazon. That's huge, right? So if they can keep their meetings to humans that can consume, that 2 pizzas can serve or lesser, and I think the rest of the world is a whole lot smaller, right? You're talking like $1.7 trillion companies, and then say a few of them in that range. The rest of the world is as big as these companies might be. They're a whole lot smaller. And then you come to startups, and then you come to something like Snowpal, which is really small, at least at this point of time. We want to keep our meetings to be really, really short. We want them to be short. We want fewer people in these meetings, and we want to have a clear end result. Now, you could say all of this, the agenda and all of those things that you discuss, but sometimes you don't want to spend too much time setting up this meeting, deciding what should be accomplished in the meeting. All of that is cost indirectly associated with that meeting. Now, if you send a request, whether it's on Slack or email or whatever it is, and then people are available, not available, and then you reschedule, set up a different time, all of that cost is tied to that meeting. So it's not just the 5 human hours that I mentioned earlier, it's all of the time that I spent prior to the meeting itself in getting that meeting organized, essentially, right? That's a cost. So long story short, what I'm trying to say is meetings are great as long as they provide quantifiable value. So I'm pretty sure there's got to be a way to tell after you spend a month, let's say you're a team of whatever number of people, and you've gotten on a number of these calls, it'd be nice to see a metric that says how much time did this team spend collectively in meetings. And I'm talking about organized meetings, meaning someone actually sent an invite or whatever. You could not spontaneous ones where someone slacks you, get on a call, and then you have a 5-minute discussion. I'm not calling that. You don't have to factor that in, because that becomes even harder to do it. But it will be good to know, right? Collectively, how much time was spent on Zoom calls as far as this team is concerned. And I think that'll give a great number, because let's say if it's 5 people working in your team, so it's 40 hours a day, about 40 hours a day, right? So 200 hours a week and about 800 hours a month, give or take, maybe 900 hours, right? In that period of time, how much time was spent in any kind of a call, meaning you not being an individual contributor, because a lot of jobs can only function when you're talking to somebody, but I'm talking more from a software development standpoint, as a developer, as an architect, in that space, as someone who's producing software that can help other people. A lot of it is actually done as an independent contributor. Sure, you need to make sure you integrate with other teams, you need to understand the requirements, you exchange specs as a contract, all of that stuff. Having said that, acknowledging all of that, I think the majority of work, at least in the world of software development, if you just take that small narrow space when it comes to building software, the rest of it you have to sell, advertise, market, your campaigns and all of that. There's a whole lot more that goes into it, but the core part of it, as I see it, is building that software. A lot of that gets done independently by a number of contributors, right? So for getting that done, I think a good number of your hours should actually be available to be done outside of these meetings. So you want to get a sense for how much time are we spending as a team on these calls, and are we getting the value for all of that time spent, or can we be making some changes? I don't know, at least that's my perspective. I'd love to know what you think. If you're working for much larger organizations, maybe you do things differently, but it would be good to know how we can optimize and become more efficient as we continue to work in this remote capacity, which might be for a while. Yep, thanks.